And I blame cable. This is cable fault from in the early 90s. If it wasn't for cable, maybe my dreams might be a little smaller. But because your parents tell you could be anything you want, and then you have cable TV, and then you see Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, and then you start to dream big. So then your dreams are bigger than your country. That doesn't make any sense. We can do anything that anybody else outside of Trinidad can do.
Welcome to Trini Inspiration. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, the land of inspiration, musically and especially so in the field of arts and entertainment, where our conversation today will redound. Today we are joined in studio by a gentleman who is a first-time director, actor, and thespian for quite a very long period of time now. We're going to chat about all of that, but in particular focus on his work with the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival this year, 2020, and his directorial debut with the movie known as Mightier Than The Sun. Today we vibing, today we having a chit chat and a real nice easygoing conversation with a gentleman by the name of Trevon Jugmohan. Trevon.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you in studio, man.
Good pleasure to be here.
There is a saying that those who get into the arts, thespians get into theater, that they are usually
Damaged people.
Not just damaged people. That wasn't the term I was going to go for. I was going to go with the term that they are characters. You remember a long time ago, the USA channel used to say characters welcome.
Yeah.
Characters. That is what they are. Would you agree with that statement?
No. I think you have to look very... What you're saying there is nice on the surface, that everybody wants to appear a certain way. But when you get down to it, actors are actually very shy people. They're very introspective, very observational kind of people. It's not a simple matter of the class clown in secondary school will be the actor in the future. That normally doesn't line up. I am the furthest thing from the class clown when I went to school. And anybody from school, teachers and stuff, when they see my name in the newspaper or something, or they come to a play or see a clip online, they're like, who is this person? Where did this person come from? The person was there, yeah. But we like a nice quiet corner. You know, you have to sometimes force actors into social situations. You know, we're loud and we're abrasive among ourselves. Most actors, not all, are very reserved people. They like one-on-one conversations. They like not to be the center of attention.
You have been under the tutelage, correct me if I'm using the wrong terminology.
Yeah, no, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, you've been under the tutelage of Raymond Choo Kong for well over a decade or so. And you were basically the producer on most of Raymond's, if not all of Raymond's production, Raymond Choo Kong Productions.
Well, yeah.
Right? Now that Raymond Choo Kong is no more, do you feel that some of the burden of expectations that people have, or what they have come to expect from a Raymond Choo Kong production, do you feel that any of that now falls on you, especially so in the context of the fact that your directorial debut happened this year at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, and the film that you directed was originally supposed to have been directed by Raymond Choo Kong?
Okay, you have plenty in there for me to unpack, right? So let me try to get through all of it. First, yes, Raymond would be considered my mentor because I've worked with him for about 13 years. And then around 2013, 14, somewhere around there, I started producing with him, and then by extension for him. You could switch that language around, but I produced for Raymond Choo Kong Productions. And vice versa, he worked on First Instinct Productions, which is my company. Raymond, what people expect from me, the wisest of people will not expect me to fill a void that was left by Raymond, because you can't. And it would be a poor attempt to do so. Now, if I want to say, I want to try to aspire to, or if I want to say, I want to do better than he did, I could do that. But Raymond's void is Raymond's void. I just look at it as life as one big cheddar cheese wheel. That the circles are there. And that's just part of the cheese. It's not a matter of you have to go and fill that in. The person was there, now they're not. It's the circumstance in which he made his exit, which is the problem. It's still murder at the end of the day. That's a different story. I don't feel like getting emotional tonight. So that was one, that was a deep void. Mightier Than The Sun, right? You said Raymond was supposed to direct it. I originally was to produce it. This was 2018. I made up my mind to produce it. And Raymond wanted to direct it. And we got into a big argument about it because he was saying this might be his last chance to direct film. But I said, Raymond, I want to do it because this is my, for lack of a better word, graduation. And I wanted to do it. So when I say Raymond was supposed to direct Mightier Than The Sun, it is a kind of a very thin line because I was always the producer on it. And I knew I wanted him to work as an acting coach with Kala and Trini, the two actors in it. And then, well, we never know what will come out of that because 2019, I only started filming Mightier Than The Sun after Raymond passed. So Raymond passed in July, 3 weeks before his 70th birthday. And by November, we shot Mightier Than The Sun. It took about 2 months to edit. So by March, it has been done.
Mightier Than The Sun. Local film debuting, screening at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival 2020. First and foremost, film in Trinidad and Tobago. Where are we at? And is this a viable option for anyone who feels so inclined toward film? Is it lucrative? Is it feasible? Is it viable for students and for others who are aspiring? Is it a good field to enter, to contemplate, or wipe that out immediately because this is a very small market and we're never going to make it mainstream? Where is your head at? How would you assess the situation as it is now?
Can I get a notepad? Because I feel like I need to take notes from him so I could follow some of this. You just rapid fire. It's like a semi-automatic you're coming at me with. Okay. Viability, not yet. We have a young industry. We need to think of our film industry like we are in the black and white movies of Charlie Chaplin in America. That's how far behind we actually might be. Because I cannot monetize my film. And at the end of the day, this is show business. This should need to be monetized. Production house needs to make money. Actors need to be paid. The technicians will be paid. And because at the end of the day, the same technicians, director of photography, cameramen, songmen, so on and so, all these people could get nice paying contracts from corporate, from government, and they could do stuff. The government or corporate will not insist on hiring trained actors for their ads. They will not insist on hiring particular directors, whether local, hopefully, and who are worth hiring. So, but the technicians get hired. So I'm less worried about the technicians because their skill is tangible enough for the layman to understand you need a good cameraman to operate a camera. But they don't understand a good actor to bring a character to life. So you could just drag somebody off the street, if they're pretty enough, boy or girl, whatever, and you just hire them. So they're more model saying lines. And they think that's okay. In the States, there is equity. There is the Screen Actors Guild. There's the TV Guild. There are all these guilds that protect. If you want to do X, Y, and Z, you must be a member of these things. In Trinidad, I could go to an advertising agency, could hire me for a job with 13 years experience doing what I do. And then if somebody else comes off the street and they hire that person, who might be popular on Instagram, and hire that person, the person is getting the same salary as me. That's not fair. That's not fair.
We're talking Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, and this, I'm not sure what the exact figures are like, but just for ease of reference, I'll say that it's not overly subscribed. The cup isn't runneth over with people who are flocking to the cinemas in years, pre-pandemic, to go see what's on offer at the TTFF every year. This year we moved the screenings online, and I'm willing to bet without any prior knowledge that, it was
much better.
It was much better.
Attended, for lack of subscribe.
Okay. So how do we get Trinidad and Tobago's citizenry and the wider Trinidad and Tobago diaspora, how do we get Trini people, right, more interested in what the film festival is offering?
Quality work. Quality work will catch anybody's attention. So you do the quality work, that's one. Two, government, like I was speaking about before, policy change where the government is concerned. I don't want to have to run to the Ministry of Culture to keep asking for grants. I want the ministry, through the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Finance, and Legal Affairs, and whoever else, with the Prime Minister, make the laws so that we can access money through the people who should be giving money. Corporate TNT. Corporate TNT should be, you see that whole corporate social responsibility they have in the mandate, and very few of them really are honest about what they're doing. Unless you have a CEO who's interested in cycling, a CEO who is interested in football, a CEO who's interested in the arts. Unless that man on the top decides he likes this personally, man or woman, decides he likes this personally, then you're on a dark street. It's a personal preference. So policy change by the government, which is not going to cost the government a cent. Just change. We adapt, we change. There are laws that we need to get rid of, and then laws we need to put in. So once there's policy change, corporate sponsorship, and then we could get the ball rolling. Then you could have Trinidadian professionals setting up production houses. So then that will also encourage people. So, okay, you can't go to Barbados to shoot a film? Come to Trinidad and you'll get a tax rebate. Foreigners could faster get a tax rebate on their film than locals could. Because that's an encouragement to come to Trinidad. Spend X amount of money and get back X amount of money. And that's where you have to hire local talent and these things. So then, if we have a production compound, let's say about the size of maybe Fernandez compound, and all the producers and stuff have their own sound stages and these kind of things, we could pick up the phone and call Tyler Perry, for lack of a better one. But I mean, he's doing some good work for his community. Call him and say, hey, you need to shoot X, Y, and Z. You can shoot it by us. Jerry Bruckheimer or whoever. We have the facility. So right now we kind of on a hope and a prayer. And so they have some older ones who trying to do the work. You have some younger ones trying to understand what they need to do. That's why you're asking certain questions. And then you have some of us inside of there who people are calling dreamers and our heads in the cloud because we want to do something. And I blame cable. This is cable fault from in the early 90s. If it wasn't for cable, maybe my dreams might be a little smaller. But because your parents tell you could be anything you want, and then you have cable TV, and then you see Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, and then you start to dream big. So then your dreams are bigger than your country. That doesn't make any sense. We can do anything that anybody else outside of Trinidad can do. We have functioning theater, we have production houses, we have more than enough talent. Some need to be refined, but we have enough.
Trevor, we have been talking quite a lot about the film festival and your directorial debut, Trinidad Tobago Film Festival, but your experience so far has been steeped in theatre for the most part. You've worked on many musical productions, and these are large scale, as you said, musical productions that involve a large number of people, sometimes crossing over 100.
In some cases,
right?
yeah.
Pandemic has now hit. How has that affected theatre, and how is theatre, at least from your perspective, planning to rebound?
Well, you changed the game. Yes, we are struggling right now because it's new. You know, it's like the teething process and anything else in life is new. So we're struggling right now. So then eventually what you have to do is reinvent yourself, the game, your team. Something has to give. We can't just sit down and do nothing during this period. We could. If you have that kind of money, you could do that. But there's the three projects that I'm currently working on / interested in would not have come about if not for COVID. So when the history is written on my production life, you could actually go from COVID. Trevon started back First Instinct during COVID. Because what people don't understand is that I'm not continuing Raymond's work. I'm now starting over mine. So whether it was COVID or not, I was still trying to climb uphill. Because Raymond not being there, you take away the celebrity from the company. You take away the most knowledgeable person from the company. So you start over. So when you check back on my history, 50 years from now, and you look back in 2020, he did this online, he did this online, he did that online. Were they successful? I don't know as yet because they haven't come out as yet. But I'm looking to get 3 online productions out before the end of the year. I have 1 in the can, 1 has been taped, 1 is to be taped, no, 1 is to be aired, and then 1 is I need to finish writing. You know, so and you don't have to stop. And yes, my situation may not be as bad as some others, but that's why I'm also pushing forward to there are people who, whether they would say they depend on me or not, I feel responsible for them. So me not sitting on my ass has a large part to do with if I could help somebody else out. But the major thing during this period is that if we could stand up as artists, as creators, is that to maintain our relevance during this time. Because you have a pandemic, you have a global crisis going on. Engineers are necessary, doctors are necessary, nurses are necessary, retail stores, groceries and these kind of things. These things are necessary. So what happens to the actor or the artist? Do we become unnecessary during this time?
I think for relief, we become, I'm not sure if necessary is the term, but we can make ourselves relevant. We just have to find different platforms and formats.
Well, let me give you that back. We are relevant, but it's who you determine as the audience member relevant. You sit down and watch your Netflix. You sit down, you watch your YouTube. You sit down and watch. There's so many things that is keeping you sane during this period. That you can't go to the cinema, you can't go to the theater, you can't even partake in the cultural activities. So you have to stay in your house, and whatever comes through the computer, if you pay a Wi-Fi bill, that is what is keeping you calm. If you read a book, an artist made that book. He is called a writer, or an author, or a novelist. That is also an artist. You know, so we may not be on the front line, but we are part of the community that is entertaining the troops. We are entertaining our fellow citizens, our neighbors. we keep them going. And if you remove the artist from society, you'll be surprised how many people if you were to just let the mothership come down and punch in, suck up artists, you'll be surprised how much people will be gone. Will be gone. The difference in a meal is the difference in an artist. What separates a cook from a chef? That's the art. The cook might be tanty. Not saying the food not best, but the Michelin star chef is an artist. So when the mothership sucks up artists, he gone too. You have to, the person who made this, the fact that this had these curves in it, this don't need to have curves in it. This is just a device for me to sit down on. Somebody took their time to create this, a woodworker. There's a difference between a woodworker and a carpenter. That's an artist. So I would love anybody to correct me if I am wrong in this how I'm thinking about it.
That sounds very accurate, at least from my perspective. So if they're correcting, they'll be correcting.
Like, so you would just give up. They'll
be correcting both of us. But let me ask you this, right? Let me ask you this, right? If I want to support local right now, which I do personally, right? I know during the pandemic it is important to support the restaurants, even if it's takeaway, or to support the small businesses, and so on and so forth. During this pandemic, how can, in very, very, very tangible terms, how can I support the arts? We're not talking here about the artist in terms of the chef or any of the other fields. We're talking here purely the arts and entertainment. How can Trinidad and Tobago support the arts during this pandemic?
One goes back to policy change. So when anybody is putting forth a proposal for policy change, please remember the artist and what we need in those policy changes. That's one. Two, when you see somebody trying to create a YouTube page, putting out their work, like the TTFF, Trinidad Film Festival happened. TTFF happened, and you'd be surprised how many people who are close to me did not pay the $35 to watch my film alone. When it was a bundle, and my bundle was myself and Shari Petit, who directed Jump, which is based on a dance group, worked at the Big Black Box. And you got two local films for the price of one, $35. And there were enough people that I could have cried. I couldn't even get upset. I could have cried. So you couldn't just watch it? At least to say, hey, Trevon, it was good or it was bad, and hear my thoughts. $35. You are working. I'm not working. Not saying I got any money from the TTFF. Not saying that. But if I do put out something, this is why it was so good to see when Errol sent up the flare for Gael, that it got a hell of a response in 12 hours, 24 hours. Save Gael. Same thing applies to everybody else who is not as famous as Errol Fabian. If somebody else is putting out their work and they're asking for a donation or they're selling a ticket, you are sending your money abroad to Netflix, to Amazon Prime, to Hulu. But we're asking for $5. We're asking, even if we ask for $100, you know, of course you're not asking for the people who are struggling, but there are a lot of people right now with the Netflix and all these accounts, and they're paying their cable and this, that, and the other. But the artists in Trinidad are passing around a basket, a collection basket at the end, and saying, could you give $5 each? My thoughts on this is, if 50,000 people give $1 each, that's 50,000. That could not only get actors by from month to month, but that also puts some money in the bank so I could do the next project without having to go to the ministry to ask for a grant. So, and again, goes same math. 50,000 people give $2 each. It's 100,000. Actors are not greedy people, but we believe, and I feel almost for lack of it, I feel shitty to say this, but actors want the same standard of life that you have. That's all. We want to be middle class. You know, when you really think about it, actors in Trinidad especially are just aspiring to be middle class, not even rich. We just want to be able to put the lights on in a house that belongs to us, pay your taxes, and collect your NIS pension when you get old. You know, and so many actors cannot do that. That is a luxury which most people in this country don't understand. So we are giving everything that we could give to entertain. And I'm not saying we're giving it because somebody asked us to give it. We're giving it because we want to. But it's like trying to love a country which you feel like it doesn't love you back.
So it's not that necessarily that we could brand everybody as not supporting the arts, but I have to support the arts on my time as well.
Yes.
So my question then is, how is either the film festival or the producers, directors, or whoever's job it is to make it available, how is it being made available at a time that is convenient and on a platform that is accessible to the layman?
You're not wrong in what you're saying there, right? Not everybody's schedule revolves around everyone else's schedule. That's fine. You are in what you're saying there about schedule not matching up, especially when you talk online. Because like the example I gave you about if we stage a play and you miss it that weekend, that's not my fault. So the same thing with the online. It's just online, you expect like it's on Netflix where you could watch it whenever you want to watch it and then pause it whenever you want to pause it and continue watching it. The problem is we don't have a platform like that. So maybe that is part of the discussion. Can somebody with the resources put things in place where that we can put our media on? Whether it be taped plays, actual films, series, like a Westwood Park, this, that, and the other. And that we could put things in place for constant access.
How can I access the movie right now is the most pertinent question. Is that even possible?
I plan on doing something that's just for me and my movie. I can't say about anybody else's movie. Because, okay, I have to be very careful with how I distribute that movie. Because when you are making the film festival circuit, which I only learned earlier this year, there are some film festivals, let's say Cannes Film Festival in France. You have to premiere at Cannes. So let's say so if they find out that I did TTFF, even though it's in my home country, Cannes wanted you to premiere by them. I premiered at TTFF. TTFF has a rule of it could premiere anywhere else in the world but Trinidad. It must premiere in Trinidad at the TTFF. So there are a lot of film festival rules. So you mightn't actually be, I'm going to work on something. So you will see my film soon. But you may not see a lot of other films until they make the film festival circuit. So maybe next year, you might get a chance to see other films. So you have to be very careful because and this is what the Trinidad Film Festival did to protect the filmmakers. It only aired in the Caribbean. So my parents who live in Florida did not get to see Mightier Than The Sun because it cannot be shown in the States. So in a kind of way, TTFF protected us. So you can't see the film right now, but I will try. So I will try to show it in Trinidad, but then I'm still not making it outside just yet. So you will see it soon. Last month was National Patriotism Month.
Yes.
And I painted this. I'm not a painter by any means. I doodle with paint. And I did this. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't do this with you in mind. But after our discussion about what you're doing here with this program, I thought that is very patriotic. So I wanted to give you this. So I'm going to give it to you. You could open it now if you want. Maybe you should. But maybe you shouldn't. But I am. So do I hand it this way or do I hand it that way?
You can hand it this way. Wow, this is the first official gift we've gotten on set. We have normally been the ones dishing out the gifts.
Did I get a gift?
Well, no, you'll get your treat bag.
Do I get this cup?
After. This is what a doodle.
A doodle in acrylic paint.
A doodle in acrylic looks like.
So whatever you get from that, I hope you get something from it. This is what was keeping me sane during COVID.
And this is going to hang somewhere on this wall, the wall of this set, for the foreseeable future. So our first piece of artwork that will decorate our studio wall here on the Trini Inspiration set is courtesy of Trevon Jugmohan Trevon Jugmohan, who is usually known for his work in the arts and entertainment and in theatre, but who today has made his is this your debut? Your doodle debut? We'll call it your doodle debut. Trevon, this has really been a very intriguing conversation. I really have learned quite a lot from this conversation, and I hope that our viewers have as well. I hope too that the picture has been made a lot clearer for the case to be made for and on behalf of the arts in Trinidad and Tobago. We do have some supremely talented people in Trinidad and Tobago in so many different fields, but I feel we are undersold oftentimes in the arts and entertainment, and many times over we hear about the bigger names. So you know about the Peter Minchells, and you know about the Raymond Choo Kongs, and you know about the Richard Ragubars and Penelope Spencer.
Years.
Yeah,
it took years for them.
It did. However, there are people like Kern and Arnold and yourself and now up and coming Kala and so many other names that I wouldn't even begin to know that, but I'm sure you could list off the top of your head.
But I'm sure you saw somewhere.
I always patronize the arts. I'm always attending plays. I've been to many at almost all of the auditoriums across the country. I've attended performances at Big Black Box. I've attended screenings at this little place, Little Carib. What is it?
Little Carib Theatre.
So I am very much engrossed in it, and I know that I do the best that I can to support local, where local is making it easy for me to support them.
Yeah.
So really and truly, we've come full circle to me again telling you that one of the reasons that I really wanted you to be on the show today is because I wanted to be as accessible and as easy for everybody else to be able to support arts and entertainment.
I want to do the same too. I don't have a car right now, right? For many reasons. I don't have a car right now. But I want to drive around this country and see things. Like, as you get older, you see things a little differently. Whether you get older by a year or maybe a decade, you see things differently and you appreciate things, even things that you were either scared of or ignorant about, ignorant in the true sense of the word, that you just didn't know or you didn't understand or you didn't have the tools to process what you were looking at. I want to go down and see the stick fight in Moruga. I want to see them pulling seine in Tobago. Seine? No. And, little things. There's so many little things. And then I want to see little community performances. Raymond was big on going to see everybody's show. He always used to say, people probably think I'm approving of the work because I'm here. I'm just coming to see. He was a fan. Same thing like me. You're a fan first.
I am so glad that you said that because you're talking about going across the country to see people's work, and even something like Ram Leela, which is the longest running outdoor theatre performance.
Which Raymond directed. Right? That was my first production in 2008. That was the first production for Wassa.
But I'm also talking about the actual Ram Leela.
Oh, the actual Ram Leela.
Across the country. Yeah. But even something like Ram Leela, my wife and I make it our business every year to visit and take in the performance of a different Ram Leela.
Yeah.
We want to eventually
right. Okay.
We want to eventually go see all of them.
So why you in Coleman to go with your one?
the offer will be on the table for next year, God willing, once the pandemic is over. But even in that, there is so much talent.
Yeah.
And you go to some, and some of them have become commercialized. You go to others, and there is so much spirituality that just oozes out of the performance, and each brings its own interpretation and its own delivery. And that is exactly what you can expect whenever you go to the theater, whenever you go.
Yeah.
And
every group is different, every performer is different. So
Correct.
we don't discount each other. Yes, sometimes you might need to work on your craft a little bit more. But this is where the professionals could help out the novices or the amateurs. You know, it's like the ministry could call so-and-so and say, hey, they have Ramlila down so-and-so. Maybe we could give you a stipend and you could be the acting coach for them. Or you could, or a dance instructor, go to, there's the mentoring program, which the Ministry of Culture started. And Raymond was a mentor, Dr. Phoebe Wilkinson was a mentor, Helen Camps is to be a mentor as well. And then have many, in many fields besides acting, whether it be jewelry making, mailing was a mentor, Wendell Manwaran was a mentor. So I'm upset that we lost Minister Gatsby to education, because I think she has been one of the most progressive ministers in the Ministry of Culture that we ever had. I don't know this current minister at all. I don't know who this person is. But hopefully he would pick up where she left off, because her initiatives, again, mentoring, the artist registry, and a couple other things, really, really mean something to the community, as far as I'm concerned. So I've actually gone to Ministry of Education, but they need all the help they could get right now.
And the arts and entertainment in Trinidad and Tobago needs all the help that it can get right now, especially during these pandemic times and even when we are out of it. Trevon, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope that you have taken great value from this conversation. I certainly have walked away with more than I bargained for from this conversation. Thank you for joining us on episode 6 of Trini Inspiration here on the Fuzz Events and Entertainment Limited platforms. Do be sure to join us next week when we'll be joined in studio by Jamel the Entertainer. So more arts and entertainment coming your way next week with a different vibe, a different beat, a different feel to it altogether. Thanks again. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and of course leave us your comments down below. And Trevon, when he awakes from his usually 13-14 hour slumber these days during the pandemic, will respond to them as quickly and as soon as he can. Till next week, bye-bye for now. God bless.